Welcome to your new favorite podcast, Glow Big with Stephanie. I'm your host, Stephanie, and this podcast is for all women. We want to inspire and empower you. We're going to bring you style, humor, entertainment, good intentions, big ideas, hope, and a little bit of sobriety in each and every episode. You can get all that and more at vibewithstephanie.com. But right now, grab yourself a sparkly water, put it in a pretty glass or a coffee, and get comfy and enjoy the show. I am so excited to have our guest on today. We have someone who is a spiritual wealth expert, a trauma therapist, a Buddhist teacher, international speaker, and she's even hung out with His Holiness, the Dali Lama. I just thought she would be so cool and have so much value to bring to Glow Big. So please welcome Angela Hryniuk. And she is in Australia. So we are on two totally different time slots, but it worked out perfectly. She's more of a night owl and I'm an early bird. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Yes.
Thank you so much. Your TikTok has been so interesting to watch. You stuck out to me for the trauma and for the way you were helping people and even how to feel less triggered with your breathing techniques. And I went back to dive a little deeper and you only have like 10 TikToks, but you are completely blowing up. And then it turns out you've got this YouTube channel with over 500,000 people. And so you are the real deal.
Yeah, I am. I've been working at it a long time. I mean, I've been on TikTok 3 weeks, guys. Like I don't know anything about TikTok. However, there's some connect, I think, with the content of what I was talking about. And that audience in particular, and I don't even know what that audience is, but it was Sunday night 3 weeks ago that I put up my first video, and I woke up the next day and it was 350 or 400,000 views. And I was like, what? This is crazy. And it's continuing and it's beautiful. And it feels like there's a little community within TikTok itself on the commenting. You know, people are talking to each other within the comments around this. And wow, that's a beautiful thing. Like we got to be talking to each other. Yeah.
It absolutely is. That's one of my favorite parts is this community that I did not expect. I was super skeptical when I started my TikTok. I was thinking, oh my gosh, like these people, I've heard that it could be really bad or they could be mean. And some you'll have once in a while, but most of the time it's amazing. And I feel like this time in our lives right now, we are all so open to healing and helping ourselves emotionally. And we're all just trying to get through some maybe generational trauma that we've had. So this is just the perfect time for your community and for my community. Everybody's just kind of trying to heal and work on themselves at the moment. One thing I did not know about you is that you are actually 25 years sober, which like, no wonder you came right out of the TikTok and spoke directly to me. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's been a journey, as you can imagine. 1995. I mean, you know, it's a long time ago. That was when I first started trying to sober up. And I sobered up by myself 3 times. I kind of white knuckled it and I just kept falling. And my childhood is laden with abuse, violence, sexual abuse, manipulation, neglect, isolation, you know, all that lovely, yummy stuff that we work through. And yeah, I turned to alcohol when I was 14 and all the way into my 30s. And I was just suicidal all the time, like for years and years and years and years. That was my back door. And when I finally sobered up in my mid 30s, I had already been practicing Buddhism for 7 years. So I tried to kind of like, my mind was just unmanageable. I just, you know, that I was unhealthy in my mind. And I thought Buddhism was going to help. And it did, you know, obviously it did. It brought me to more awareness. And Buddhism is not going to cure your alcoholism. I didn't know I was an alcoholic. I just knew alcohol and me. We always had a party and it ended up in disaster. So yeah, I tried to sober up. I had a year up and then I would go drinking and I had another year up and I would go drinking, you know, and I think that's common for a lot of people who are trying to understand, like, how do I quit this? I don't know how to live any other way. And then I met recovery in a recovery program, and that kind of catapulted me. That kind of moved me to another dimension of my healing. And I was like, yeah, like I say, in my early 30s. So, you know, fast forward 25 years, this is what it looks like. You know, I've been working with my trauma and my abuse for well, 1988 was the first time I went to a sexual abuse encounter group, right? Like that's a long time ago. So what my wounds have turned into are my blessings and my gifts. So I'm no longer, I don't have all that reactive experience anymore. I'm completely changed. And yeah, I'm here to say to the world, you can do it. You can do it. It ain't easy. It's very simple, but it ain't easy. But there are those of us who have done it and hang out with us, right? Hang out with us.
I love that about the wounds and the blessings, because I feel like without the wounds, we wouldn't be here. Our wounds end up being gifts that we can give to others once we're healed, and that you can do it. And it is hard, but it feels great and it's worth it.
Yeah, 100%. I know when I was 14, a little kid in the middle of Canada, alone, isolated, it's minus 50 degrees outside, and I'm drinking by myself. And I just couldn't get it. It's like, why would we be brought to the earth to suffer so bad? I just could. And I said to him, I just wanted to die. And I said to the divine, my God at the time, and I just said, if I can help one person not suffer, I will live if I can help one other person by my suffering. And that's been my edict my whole life. How can I help others not suffer? Because by the time I was 21, I'd spent my entire portion of pain. Like 21, I was like, I'm out of here, guys. Like I have had more pain and suffering. And now I talk to people who are suicidal or who are struggling with addictions or who are overcoming that. I get it. I've been there, bought the t-shirt, made the video. I'm here talking to you now.
That's amazing. And you said, if you could help one, and look, I mean, millions. We don't even know the actual number of how many people that you continue to help because of your sobriety. Had you kept drinking, you wouldn't be here. When I'm coaching people too, I'm letting them know how many people they're going to help without maybe even knowing it, just by getting sober. And it starts at home. I have changed my son's complete life by one action of no longer drinking. And he's going to be able to pass that on to the world, and on and on and on.
I really feel like being sober is kind of being human. And we didn't know how to be human, if that makes sense. We didn't get the rule book. Nobody taught us certain things. And, this is not a blame game. It's just that, we didn't come equipped. And so for sobriety, it's like, I'm learning how to be human.
That is absolutely right. And I think that was one of my personal fears. I was so afraid to get sober because I had never been sober in my entire life. I started drinking around 13, 14, hanging with party people. And I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was going to turn out to be once I took all of that padding off. And I was scared to death to be human. And it is really rough to start feeling again when you haven't felt in so long. I mean, I was crying, I was angry, I was all over the place, scared, trembling, but I got to be human, and I'm human now. And I love that you said that, because I've never said it in those words, but we're getting to be human beings.
We're joining the human race. Like, people who don't have to rely on substances, or behaviors to get them through a day to make them feel good. They're the minority, and they got equipped. They got equipped with stuff that we didn't. And so, it's a time of catching up to be part of humanity and to accept the responsibility that we all suffer. We do. Whether you're an addict, you're an alcoholic, or whatever, we're suffering, and we've got to help each other, period. There's a book called Society as an Addict. And she says that 97% of the Western world is addicted to a substance, a behavior, or a person. Ooh. So that's a lot of addiction going on. And that TikTok blow up tells me that there is so much pain and suffering going on. And people are starting to talk about it now. They're starting, which is fantastic. The good news is that there's some of us that have solutions out of the suffering. There's recovery programs, yes, and there's even deeper solutions and more solutions moving forward as well. Because I maintain, you start clearing your conscious mind, then you got to go into your unconscious and start working there. And, my thing about being a Buddhist is I'm here to become enlightened. So once I get my conscious patterning cleaned up, And then I got to go into my unconscious patterning, because there's more. We want to go to love, unconditional love. That's the bottom line. So
Jeez, it gets deep, doesn't it?
it does. Yeah. Deep.
You said something earlier about suffering when you were 13 or 14. And I do have some coaching clients that seem to be predisposed to suffering, or they just have an underlying suffering that they can't seem to get rid of. And I know that it's trauma, past trauma. How would you suggest that anyone could start working through that deep, heavy trauma that causes them to go back and drink to cover it up every time?
Well, it's multi-pronged, suffering and trauma. And there's three major types of trauma. Like there's the day-to-day, the drop of water. Every day somebody makes you feel stupid. They look at you bad, it's the chronic kind of thing, day in and day out, that causes trauma. And then there's the kind that is, the fire, the house burning down. And so there's different kinds of trauma, and you got to treat them differently. So the first point of entry always is awareness about it, and then other people, other human beings. So to hook up with a coach, hook up with a community, whether it's AA or NA or Al-Anon or ACOA, or like, it's humans that are going to help each other. Then the person that is like chronically, I don't know about relapsing. The thing about my story is I relapsed because I didn't have a community. That I know to be true. I didn't know how to talk to other human beings. So I white knuckled it and said, I can do this on my own. I can do it. Willpower, until I couldn't do it on my own. So that's why I say the number one thing is community. And the second thing is getting a mentor, a teacher, new information, whether that is, but again, I feel it has to be a human being. I feel it has to be like a sponsor or a spiritual teacher, well, not necessarily a spiritual teacher, but somebody who's further down the road than you, who's got strategies, who's been there. Like, I can give you quick tips very quickly. That will give you relief. That will give a person relief. And I maintain there's three kind of sections of recovery. The first is relief. The second is healing. And the third is then transformation. So the first stage is, I just want some relief, man. I can't get out of this. So when I work with people, often they've moved from relief to healing, and we are working in the unconscious, because a lot of our memories and behaviors are formulated before we're 10 years old. So the trauma that happened in those first 7 to 10 years are going to formulate who we are today. Now, we don't remember that. A lot of us have numbness. We don't have memory. So, when I'm working with people, I go into the unconscious with them and call up some of the behaviors that happen, and then we turn them around in the unconscious. And then they come back into this reality, and they're kind of like, wow, I feel changed here, and I don't feel so unworthy of love. And it's that I'm unlovable, I'm not seen, I'm not heard. Those are the core wounds of everybody. I'm not seen, I'm not heard, and I wasn't touched properly. I maintain all trauma is based on those three things. You can get traumatized by not being fed and not sheltered properly, but experiments have shown that you can be fed and housed properly, but if you're not listened to, and if you're not touched appropriately, given a hug, and if you're not seen and respected with your opinion, that forms trauma. It's heavy stuff, and there's layers. Like, let's get some relief. Fall to your knees. That's what I say to people. When you're triggered, get on your knees. Go to the bathroom, extricate yourself from the situation. Somebody's raging at you, leave the room, get on your knees. And why we get on our knees is because there's chakras. There's spin points on our knees, and they open up our heart. And when we're in our heart, we make better decisions. But when we're a scared little animal, like fight, flight, freeze, and we're in our amygdala, we can't make any good decisions. All we're going to do is, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. You're not going to die. You're not going to die, but you got to make a better choice. You may need to leave the room. You might need to walk away from the substance or the person or whatever. So I just, drop to your knees. Then there's EFT, EMD, EMDR, all of those to change and re-regulate your nervous system. because that's what's been activated. It's your nervous system.
That is tapping that she's talking about. And I just started coaching on that because during my first little bit of sobriety, was looking for anything and everything that would help me. Just any tool, every tool, whatever I could get. I mean, meditations, hypnosis, sound healing. And I found tapping. And I was like, oh, okay, this is super weird, but I'm going to try it when and if I need it. And there was a time when I was having an intense craving. I was around 15 days. And I was going to make or break me. I knew I was going to drink or I was going to try this tapping thing. I tapped and it went away like magic. So I coach on that too. So you called it, it's EFT, emotional
freedom technique.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then what's the other thing you said?
EMDR. EMDR is sort of retraining the brain by looking at objects to get it. Basically, it's you want your left and your right brain to talk to each other. And that's what the tapping does. It's like left, right. And then it elicits all the meridians and all the different energy sources in your body to wake up. Because we patterned, it's learned behavior drinking. It's like, that's your go-to to have relief. But that's not the only solution. But we don't know what the other solutions are because we're in the middle of panic. And I'll tell your listeners, you got 14 seconds to ride a feeling. That's all. That it lasts only 14 seconds. So if you can breathe through 14 seconds or tap your head or your knees or wherever like when you learn the tapping points, and you can last 14 seconds, then you've made it through the first cycle. And you can make another choice. Okay, I'm going to tap again, or I'm going to make a phone call to a friend, or it's that short, but we're not aware enough to realize it's that short. It feels like forever.
It does feel like forever. It does.
Yeah.
You said that there are 3 types of trauma day to day, like drop. Somebody's constantly offending you or hurting your feelings. And there's your house burning down kind of trauma. What was the third?
It's sort of a combination of the first two. It's sort of like being in a war where you have like bombs going off, which is like your house burning down, but then it's constant. It's a constant. So that's complex PTSD when you're coming from a war situation, or even like, you come home to an alcoholic who's going to beat you every day and they're exploding. So it's complex. It's more complex than just somebody who's neglecting you every day or calling you down every day.
You were talking about fight, flight, or freeze in one of your TikToks. Can we talk about that for a little bit?
Totally. So in our brain, near the base of the spine, right at the back of our head, is a place called the amygdala. Now, this amygdala is one of the oldest parts of our brain. In fact, we kind of don't need it anymore, but we do need it because we do need to have the ability to act very quickly. If say a car is coming and we don't see it and we're going to get hit by a car, we've got to react. We have to have that nervous system and that nervous reaction. But what happens when we get traumatized is that amygdala gets activated all of the time. The amygdala is there to serve us to survive. This is the animal part of us, right? It's like a dog or a cat or an animal in the woods. If you corner it, it's going to do one of 3 things. It's going to show its teeth and jump at you. It's going to fight you. It's going to play dead so that you walk by it. Like I'm thinking about a deer or, something like that. Or it's going to leave. It's going to run away. So those are the animal instincts. It either is going to, bite you and come at you. That's fighting. It's going to freeze in the woods, just play dead, or it's going to hightail it out of there. Well, we fundamentally, at the very root of the base of who we are, there's animal instincts in us. So when we're being threatened day in and day out, say by erratic behavior, a mother who rages, a father who comes home at night drunk, or a sibling that runs into our room with a knife, we go into a fight, a flight, or a freeze mode. And some of us do a combination. We may fight. That may be the first reaction. In my case, my brother, he would come and beat me and I would try and fight back, but he was stronger. So then I would play dead. hoping that he would, like I would go limp, hoping that he would leave me. And so guess what happens when I'm out in situations? In my professional life, that's how I became. I was like an outgoing fight. But in my private life, I was more of a freezer. I was more quiet, reserved. And if somebody disturbed me, I would hightail it out. I wouldn't talk. So we can adopt these personas. This isn't who we are. This is the thing. People think, oh, no, I'm a quiet person. Oh, no, I'm just a loud person. That's just the way I am. No, that's a reaction to your environment when you were a child. And you've adopted it as an identity now. The truth is that we need to sometimes fight. We need to sometimes stand up. We need sometimes to discern whether to shut our mouth or to stay quiet. Let the other person have their way. They may not be right, but this is not the time to fight. And sometimes it's time to bless them and get out of the room. But none of it with reaction, only from a sense of, I'm a sovereign being and I love myself, and this behavior is unacceptable to me. So we're not reacting. We're not like that animal instinct, like, boom, I got to get out of here. Oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. It's more, okay, how do I just suss the situation out and see what I need to do? So do you see the difference between reactivity and responding? You have to be back in your body. You have to be in your body when you're doing that. And most of us, when we're reacting, boom, we're out of our body.
Yep.
We don't feel safe. I always say to people, know what your animal instinct is. Find that out. Figure that out. Which one of the three? There's a fourth one people talk about called fawning now.
Oh, yes. That's a new one I've heard too. I didn't know what that is either. What is it?
But that I find is sort of a offshoot of these three. And it's the next level, which is kind of becoming manipulative. Fawning somebody like, oh, you're so beautiful. And like, it's a defense strategy so as to keep safe. But you do that after you've sussed the situation out, and it's manipulative and it's coercive, and it's sort of like, I'm trying to manipulate you so I feel safe. So it's an instinct to survive, as opposed to I'm okay. I feel safe just the way I am.
I think what stuck out to me about this fight, flight, freeze and the fawning was that they said, if you're running around crazy and you're staying busy all the time and you never give yourself downtime, and you're scheduling every moment, then it's probably trauma based. Like you're just trying to protect yourself from past traumas. And I was like, oh, that's me. Oh my gosh, that's me. Just busy planning. Got to stay busy.
I call it busy being lazy.
Ooh.
Like we look really, like we got it going on, but really we're being lazy to not sit down and look at the deeper stuff.
Yes.
The deeper pain, the deeper self-worth that needs to be, loved and held and accepted. That's what we're avoiding, because when we sit still, the pain just kind of rises to the top.
It sure does. And avoidance, I mean, I've had a lot of deaths and a lot of trauma, and there's so much that I don't even let come to the surface because I just am afraid. And that's me even being almost a year sober now. I'm still trying to avoid some of those things because I don't want to deal with it. Like my uncle just died like a week ago, not even. I haven't mentioned it. I haven't said anything. I've just been busier than ever, and you wouldn't even know. So avoidance is a big word.
Well, it's a tactic. I mean, it's a strategy, and it will work until it doesn't work anymore. And you'll have to find another way. And, you'll be in a bank somewhere or in a grocery store, and you'll start bawling your eyes out, and you won't know why. And it's connected to that uncle that died and that you didn't deal with it at the time. And it all works out. It's not like there's one prescription that everybody has to follow. Everybody's got their own path and how it holds for each of us. Yeah, you just be gentle. I would just say be gentle with yourself. And if you notice you're being avoidant about some feelings, ask yourself, do I not feel safe? Because I am lovable, right? And what needs to come up that I need to hold inside of me that needs love, that needs attention? It's usually just a lack of love
Ooh,
yeah, you know.
I can't wait to share that. My friend who I'm coaching, who's got so much past trauma, and I know that a lot of neglect and a lack of love, and she needs that so much. So I'm going to let her know that a lot of this is just a lack of love. And so what's a way to, and I always say give yourself grace, but what's an actual tangible thing people can do to show themselves love? And that's why I'm big into self-care and things like that. But if we wanted to take it deeper, how could you do that?
Okay, so if we want to go deeper, there's it depends on how deep you want to go. I mean, I have a meditation, I have a practice that I work with people, and it's called the accelerated transpersonal timeline method, which means we go back in time very quickly to that place, that little girl, that little boy that's really, really hurt. And we go and we reparent them. We go and hang out with them, right? It's not the conscious level. I mean, you can on a conscious level do this. So for somebody, I mean, like your friend or yourself or people in early recovery in the first, year or two, I say, get a cuddly toy, get a baby doll, and then just hold it and look at it and put your face on it. Put your face on that little baby doll and hold it, and you be the mother to you that you never had, right? Or those anxious feelings come up and you don't know what they are, what to do with them. Grab even a pillow and hold right here at your solar plexus, because that's your God hole. That's the part in us that gets all jangled. That's when we get anxious. And you could just even put a pillow there and hold the pillow, or hold the cuddly toy. Hold yourself in love and say, I love you. It's hard because we're not there yet. I actually don't love myself. I just be the parent that you never had, telling yourself, I love you, to the little one, because it's the little one that doesn't feel lovable. The adult you're super competent, you're super, out there doing things. We're strong, we're powerful, we're, all of that stuff. That's the adult that we've created. So rely on that part of you to give that soft gentleness to that part of you that doesn't feel that way, that feels small and incapable and unworthy.
I love that so much. So talking to your inner child, treating her the way she didn't get to feel.
Exactly. And I say to people, draw up a list. What would your perfect mother have been like? What would your perfect father have been like? And then you become that for you, not for anybody else. Kind, considerate, punctual, generous, listens carefully, is gentle, soft, right? As a mother. So you do all those things to that little girl. Get pictures of yourself. I say this to clients, get photographs of yourself as a child. Put one beside your bed. Put one in your kitchen. Put one in your car. And look at her, because she's the one that got hurt. She's the little one that needs your love. And you ain't going to get it from the world. You're not going to get it from your mom. You're not going to get it from your dad. You're not going to get it from your spouse. Don't ask for it. That's the thing. People reach out. It's like, no. Go and parent yourself. Be with that little one. Hold her. Yeah.
That little girl is the reason I got sober. I kept waking up in the morning and with so much sadness that I drowned her in wine. She did not deserve that or ask for any of this life. And then for me to turn into an adult and just drown her again. I just I could not let go of my inner child begging me to stop. And it really was that was my biggest, and God and my little boy, but it was this inner child had been begging me to stop for so long. And then I was laughing when you were talking about making a list of your perfect mom and dad, because of how ridiculous I am with my little boy. And I notice myself now, I'm like, okay, maybe that's a little over the top. He doesn't need all of that. It's, I'm teaching him how to breathe and how to this and how to, just kind of giving him all these things that we didn't really have. And I wonder too, if some of this is just the way things were back then. Is that even a thing? Because it seems
Totally.
like a lot of us have some of the same
Oh,
things.
it's the matrix. I mean, it's the society that we got born into, the social codes, the social etiquette that be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
Kids just go play, right? Parents weren't taught about patience because their parents came from the war. Their parents came from the Depression. So they had a really tough kid. You don't know what tough is, right? So it's comparative. So they're better off than their parents were to them. So then our parents kind of were like, there's no war going on, so you're better off. No, now it's coming to fruition that our mental health got severely affected by the neglect or by the, just latchkey kids. It was part of the whole emancipation of women in the 60s, right? That they were going out to work and it was seen to be a good thing. Leave your kids at daycare, empowerment. Like that was my mom. I was 6 months old in a daycare center. She laughs about, it's a family story that I couldn't sit up. The requirement for me to be in daycare was I had to sit up by myself, but I couldn't quite sit up yet. So she propped me up for the interview so that I would be accepted in the daycare. Like that stuff is damaging, but she didn't know it. She didn't know it. She thought she was doing the right thing. She wanted to be an empowered woman. She wanted to be an example for her daughter. And she was, and he wasn't. Right?
There's constant room for improvement, they're just, and it can be a struggle sometimes because I see myself thinking or about to say, or having said something that my mom would say before. I can't think of an example right now, but something to do with having no patience or just running short on patience. And it's constant work to try to not be our parents.
Well, and I like, this is a cautionary tale too, I think, is that we don't want to become our parents. So our parents were over here, on this level, this end of the spectrum. So we go all the way over here to become the parent on the opposite end of the spectrum. So we were neglected. We were a latchkey kid. So then we become a helicopter parent, or we smother, or we make sure they, have all their needs met, physical, mental, emotional, all that kind of stuff. And we smother them. So both spectrums will create insecurity. So we have to come into the middle ground. We have to learn what the middle ground is, right? They need discipline. They need boundaries. They need love. They don't need smothering. They don't need that you do everything for them. We need that balance. And so we're in a flip right now where parenting has become helicopter parenting and smothering. And now we're going to come into the balance. I think in the next generation, there's going to be some balance coming through. So yeah, because I've seen so many parents go from one extreme to the other, and then their kids are equally insecure or they're drug addicted, and they're like, but I did everything for the kid, and you did too much for the kid.
Oh gosh, are you speaking right to me, girl? Are you speaking right to me? somebody said something about how like back in my day, we had to drink water from the water fountain or from the hose. And these kids these days have emotional support waters. And that's hilarious because we all have our emotional support waters to go. So, okay. So be more middle ground. I will work on that, girl.
The middle path. Yeah. And I say there's two ditches, right? Like the middle path, there's two ditches on either side, and we're going to fall over into them, but that's okay. We just pick ourselves up and come back into the middle.
Yeah. It's fine.
So we might neglect a little bit over here, come back into the middle. Oh, we might smother a little bit, come back into the middle.
All in all, I think we're doing the best that we can, right? The fact that we care, we're here.
Exactly. And this is part of evolution. So this is what if we pulled back the lens big time, this is evolution of the species. We are in the process of evolving from where we got wounded. So our parents got wounded in a particular way. They did better. They wounded us. We are going to do better. Our kids are going to be wounded, but they're going to do even better, so that the species starts to grow up as a species, not just as me human or you human. It's like the whole planet grows up. We're very immature as a species. And we're growing up.
We were talking earlier about your transpersonal timeline, which I am very interested in, going back in time and hanging out with your little inner child and coming out different, feeling better and lighter. So can you tell me a little bit about this method that you created? It's so fascinating.
Well, it was created over a long period of time, and it's an amalgamation of all the different modalities that I personally studied for many, many years. So the first part of it is meditation. So I've sat my butt on meditation cushions for 40,000 hours. So there's Buddhist meditation, there's hypnotherapy. So I worked with a therapist for 7 years, a psychotherapist and a Jungian. So we were working in the unconscious and working with hypnotherapy. Then Eastern Jerry Hicks came along in the early noughts. So the creative visualization. So I've pulled these all together. And what we do is we go down a set of stairs into our psyche. And, you move into the unconscious. Now, I don't want to get too broad, but what I do want to say is that we move into that part of our being that is like where you go when you dream, the unconscious. You can't control it. It is just there, and it is there to inform you. And everything that you've ever said, everything that you've ever thought, everything you've ever done energetically still exists in the unconscious. And it exists until we face it. And then when we become aware of it and face it, we then change it. So this method goes down those stairs. You go and meet your little girl, say at the age of whatever, 3 years old, when you used to pee your bed all the time, and you used to have to get up and wash your sheets, and your mom would shame you, and you were 3 years old, right? Or you had to wash the dishes, and you had to have a little standing stool to stand up to wash the dishes. You had to do things before you were competent, but then you were put down because you weren't competent enough, right? So we go back in time, and we reverse through our minds, working in this. It's not through thinking, though. See, this is the difference. You don't go there through thought. You go through this unconscious place where we confront some of our feelings. We confront our parents. We confront ourselves around feeling shame or guilt. And then we, the adult, are there down with our child, telling the child that it's okay. You did the best you could. You're brilliant, in fact. You're strong, you're competent, you're beautiful, you're perceptive, you're intuitive, all of these things. And it's at such a deep level that when you come back to this level of consciousness or reality, it's like, wow, what happened? Like something shifted. And you didn't do anything directly, because it's not a linear process, and it's not with the brain and the mind the way we think, right? It's working with the source energy, the God source, the energy of all that is, the quantum field, if you will. So, and that's how I've done most of my healing. So it's a profound method, and it's accelerated. It really moves you through your suffering quickly. That's why I call it the accelerated timeline method. It's phenomenal because you get to change your past. You can't ever change what happened, but you can change the feelings about what happened.
Do you have this video on YouTube? Because I feel like I have walked down those stairs. Remember I said I was like all the tools, all the videos, all the things. I think I've walked down those stairs with you one night.
You may well have. There's 2 different versions. There's a 9-minute version and a 20-minute version. I don't know which one's on YouTube. There's Spotify as well. And
was there a tree? Was there a
tree?
tree? No tree. Okay. All right. I'll have to look back through my history, but that sounded awfully familiar.
Well, the thing is that when we go down those stairs, we're going to get a child of many ages, different ages. So we continue to do it. Like I continue to do that practice even today, because there's a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 14-year-old on any given day who's got a need that's going to show up. And that's what we want to heal. We don't want to grow them up. We want to grow them healthy. So that's the process that continues, and it continues, and it continues. That's what I want to say.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for this entire interview. You are absolutely fascinating to me. I would love to have everyone follow you. How can they get a hold of you? And then I know you said that you want to offer a gift.
Sure. So I've got 2 gifts that I'd like to give. One is a little package of what I call the morning ritual. And so a morning ritual is, you get a little booklet, a little checklist in your mind when you wake up. How am I feeling? Yada, yada. Then there's a video about a breathing meditation. Like, why do we need to learn how to breathe properly? And then a breathing meditation. So that's one little package altogether. And the second piece is a PDF download of when somebody gets triggered. What are the 9 steps to move us out of being triggered very quickly and bring us back into our sovereignty? So
thank you so much.
I want to offer that to your listeners, and ways that we can connect. I mean, obviously the TikTok, it's Diamond Wisdom 𝗙𝗃𝗃, my YouTube channel, my Facebook page, and yeah, that through you. I mean, if they can get in touch with you, you're in touch with me.
Okay, amazing. So I will drop Angela's links to the gifts that she's going to give you. I'll put that here in the body of this podcast and also on the email that I send out every Thursday. And if you're not on that, you can sign up for that at vibewithstephanie.com so that you get all the emails and the updates and the gifts. Angela, thank you so much. You are wise beyond, and we have so much to learn from you, but you provided so much value here today, and I just can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for inviting me. And, listeners, I'm writing a book with all this in it. So I'm putting this together, and I'm hoping in the next year or 2, it'll be out there, but you'll see it. It'll be one place that you can get all of this good stuff in. So
that's amazing. Start following Angela.
You're doing wonderful work by spreading the love.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll have the best night, and I'm going to go and start the day and get my little boy off to school.
And keep the faith. Everybody, just keep the faith.
Thank you so much. Have a great one. Bye. Thanks for hanging out with us today at Glow Big. We hope you're leaving feeling empowered and happy and ready to take on the world. Check out the website, vibewithstephanie.com. You'll get info on everything from fashion to sobriety. And for extra support on sobriety, check out vibewithstephanie.com/sober. Have a great day.